Ra Gunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Gunjabihari Jaya Gopi Janava Vivavadari Jaya Gopi Janava Vivavadari Yashodanandana Prajadana Ranjana Yashodanandana Prajadana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Radha Punjabi Jaya Radha Radha Punjabi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Continuing reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 5, entitled The Cause of All Causes, text 26 through 29. We can recite text 26. Navasota vikurvanar abhut svarsha guno nilaha haran vayachcha davamscha prana ojasaho balam Navasota vikurvanar abhut svarsha guno nilaha haran vayachcha davamscha Ana ojasaho balam Napasota vikurvanar abhut svarsha guno nilaha haran vayat shabdavanscha ana ojasaho balam
Napasota vikurvana Bhutsparsha guno nilaha Pranavach Shabdavangscha Ana ojasaho balam
Nabasota vikurvanat abut sparsha guno nilaha ranvayat chabdavangscha prana oja sahobalam Navasota vikurvanad abhus parshas gunanilaha paranvayat chad chabba chad chabba chabdvamascha rana oho sahabalaham
Navasota vikurvana abut sparsha guno nilaha Ranjvaya chabdav vamscha prana oja saho balham
Nabasota varakanad abhus parso ganunala Karnavadik Travanska Prano Jasobalam
Nabasota vinurvana abut sparsha gunonila ranvayachanavamscha prana oja sahobalam
Nabasota vikurvanan ahabut sparsha gunonilaha ranvayach chabdavamscha rana oja sahobalam
Navasota Vikurvana Abhus Parsha Gunonilaha
abhut sparsha guno nilaha
Chabdavangscha
paranyavat chabdavamscha
Prana Oja Sahobalam
prana oja saho balam Navasota vikurvana Navasota vikurvana abhut sparsha guno nilaha abhut sparsha guno nilaha paranvayach Jabadhavamscha Paranvayachabdhavamscha Prana Oja Saho Balam Prana Oja Saho Balam
Nabasota vikurvana
Navasvata Vikurvana
abut sparsha gunonilaha
Abhut Sparshakuno Nila
paranvayach chabdavamscha
Paranvayachabdhavamscha
prana oja sahobalam
Prana Oja Saho Balam. Okay, I'll read the other text. There's text 26 through 29 altogether. Vairalapi vikurvanat kala karma svabhavataha udapadyata tejo vai rupavat sparsha shabdavat tejasastu vikurvanat asid ampo rasatmakam rupavat sparsha vachchambo Goshavachcha paranvayat Visheshastu vikurvanad ambaso gandhavanabhut paranvayad rasa sparsha shabda rupa gunanvitaha. Word for word translation. Nabasa of the sky. Ata, thus, vikurvanat, being transformed. Abhut, generated. Sparsha, touch. Guna, quality. Anila, air. Hara, previous. Anvayat, by succession. Shabdavan, full of sound. Cha, also. Prana, life. Oja, sense perception. Saha, bat. Balam, strength. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch. And by previous succession, the air is also full of sound and the basic principles of duration of life. Sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time in nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch, and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous, and as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. Report. The whole process of creation is an act of gradual evolution and development from one element to another, reaching up to the variegatedness of the earth as so many trees, plants, mountains, rivers, reptiles, birds, animals, and varieties of human beings. The quality of sense perception is also evolutionary, namely generated from sound, then touch, and from touch to form. Taste and odor are also generated along with the gradual development of sky, air, fire, water, and earth. They are all mutually the cause and effect of one another, but the original cause is the Lord Himself in plenary portion, as Mahavishnu lying in the causal water of the Mahatattva. As such, Lord Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as the cause of all causes. And this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10:8 as follows. Aham savasya pabhavo matta savam pavartate iti matva pashante mam buddha bhava samandvita. The qualities of sense perception are fully represented in the earth, and they are manifested in other elements to a lesser extent. In the sky there is sound only, whereas in the air there are sound and touch. In the fire there are sound, touch, and shape. And in the water, there is taste also, along with the other perceptions, namely sound, touch, and shape. In the earth, however, there are all the above mentioned qualities with an extra development of odor also. Therefore, on the earth, there is a full display of variegatedness of life, which is originally started with the basic principle of air. Diseases of the body take place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental diseases result from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order, so that diseases of the body become almost nil by such exercises. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases. and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and quit the body at the right moment, when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. The Bhakti yogi, however, surpasses all the yogis because by dint of his devotional service, he is promoted to the region beyond the material sky and is placed in one of the planets in the spiritual sky by the supreme will of the Lord, the controller of everything. Om Gyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd like to ask if Maharaj would like to make any comments. So, this second canto, chapter 5, the cause of all causes. Does anybody know who was speaking this shloka? Lord Brahma. And who's he speaking to? Narada Muni. So in the beginning of the chapter, Narada Muni is asking some very pertinent questions. He's wondering where Brahmaji gets his power, if he's the source of all the creation by himself, or if somebody else is providing him with this power to do this creation. Some of the questions he asked specifically is, please describe factually the symptom of this manifest world. What is its background? How is it created? How is it conserved? And under whose control is all this being done? It says, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? And under whom are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities with material elements by your personal energy? Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about, people have kids, and kids when they're very young, they're very inquisitive, and they ask all sorts of questions. Every kind of question. At first it's really exciting. Oh, the kid's inquiring, he's talking, he's wondering. But then it seems like, from what I've observed, the parents get a little, it's too much at one point. And they're asking questions about everything all the time. But here, Narada Muni, who's, essentially the son who's emanating from Lord Brahma, he's also asking questions, and he's asking questions that are very, very pertinent. When Lord Brahma was beginning to answer his questions, he even said this. He said, my dear boy Narada, being merciful to all, including myself, you have asked all these questions because I have been inspired to see into the prowess of the Almighty Personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma is seeing this as an opportunity to be able to describe some of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of where he gets his power from. Similarly, in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second chapter, the first canto, we hear, Munaya Saru Prishtoham Bhavadbir Loka Mangalam Yat Krita Krishna Samprashno Yinatma Supersediti. Suta Goswami is beginning to address the sages at Naimisharanya, and he says, your questions are beneficial to all because they relate to topics concerning Lord Krishna. So these are the questions that we should ask are about Krishna. And when we hear this chapter, it's talking about the pradhana, the mahatattva, the agitation of the modes of material nature by time, and then from the modes of material nature coming manifest, all these different elements becoming manifest, such as the subtle elements of false ego, intelligence, mind, and then what we're hearing about now, the successive manifestation of the material elements: earth, air, water, fire, ether. And as we just read, it's all beginning from ether, and then it's continuing on from more subtle to gross. And we could see that this is how this phenomenal world is created, from subtle to gross. And this is something very nice to observe. I think I mentioned yesterday, but this is the way things manifest, is from subtle to gross. First we have a thought or a desire, and then it creates a meditation, and then it becomes more gross and talk about things, and then it leads to action. So when we're discussing things that are just material without any relation to Krishna, where does it lead? What does it get us? Not so much. But when we're discussing these things in relation to Krishna, it helps us understand the supremacy of the Lord. I was mentioning yesterday about the Bhagavatam. It said that these first two cantos are like the Lord's lotus feet. And Prabhupada really emphasized hearing the whole Bhagavatam from the beginning and rising up gradually to see the Lord's beautiful face, his personal feature in the 10th canto, which specifically deals with his amazing pastimes. So it's important to understand the way that the Lord creates this world. So many people are perplexed by this notion. In the age of Kali Yuga, a lot of people are completely in ignorance and don't even really consider it. But personally, I remember going outside in the evening, looking up at the stars. It naturally invokes some sense of wonder. Why are we here? Where did all this come from? What's the point of life? There's all these different stars. So much is going on, and we're just on this tiny little rock floating in space. And scientists, philosophers, they've been speculating about this since time immemorial. But what kind of conclusive results have they gotten? Even if they begin to unravel a little bit of the mysteries of the material creation, how far can it actually take us? This is empiric knowledge, trying to approach an understanding of life by building up from our own intelligence, our own merits, our own inquiries in this way. But when we hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're taking knowledge directly from the source. So here we have Narada Muni inquiring from Brahma, who Brahma was deputed to enact all this creation by the Lord's power. And he heard this himself from the Supreme Lord. I forget where, it's somewhere in this general vicinity where Lord Brahma speaks the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavatam, which is the 4 original shlokas. I think it already passed, but it's very nice because the Lord is speaking to Brahma and telling him that, yes, know that whatever deals with me to be of value, and whatever is not directly related to me, know it to be Maya, my illusory energy, no value. So this is the position of a devotee, of trying to see everything in relation to the Supreme Lord Krishna. Yeah, I was just listening to a lecture and I heard a great example where, say there's a house with a family and you walk up there and you walk to the stairs and you go up to the door and you see all these shoes laying outside and it's kind of a mess. And from your perspective, there's a bunch of shoes here, it's cluster. What's all this doing here? This is junk, it's nonsense. But, the mother who was residing in that house, she walks up and she says, oh, this is my kid's shoes. So she sees it with such a special meaning because it's in connection to her child, or there's a special connection, a special relationship. So similarly, when we see everything in relation to Lord Krishna, then instead of us just being bewildered by the illusory energy and being enamored by the flux of material nature in different ways, different shapes or forms, you're seeing everything as very special because it's coming from the Lord. And it reminds you of Lord Krishna. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also gives us so many examples how to do this. Who can think of some? Krishna says he's the strength of the strong, taste of water, the ability of man, the sun, the light of the sun, the moon, a fish and the sharks. The splendor of fire, the gambling of cheats, or the cheat of gamblers. So Krishna gives us so many different examples of how to see him in his creation here. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, for one who always remembers me, he's never lost to me, and I am also never lost to him. So by seeing Krishna in relation to everything, training the mind in this way, we'll never be lost to Krishna, and then Krishna is always there with us. You mentioned that Krishna is the taste of water. Here it's describing how these, with the production of the material elements, that each one that's more gross has all the aspects of the previous one. So I was thinking about this of taste. Krishna says, I am the taste of water. And we can't taste anything without water. And this is why Krishna says he's the taste of water. Like even if you imagine you cook something very nice, but it's super, super dry. But in your mouth, there's no taste. You have to chew it for a while and get some saliva, which is essentially water, which mixes with it so you can taste it. So otherwise, there's no taste. The only capability is coming from that. And it's really nice to meditate on these aspects, and then you can see the correlation between these different elements, the senses, and have a much better understanding of the physical world in relation to Lord Krishna. Prabhupada at the end of this, he started talking about diseases of the body happening due to unbalanced prana, basically different imbalances of life air within the body. Because in this shloka, it said prana oja sahobalam. Prana meaning like life force, oja, sense perception, or also like strength. So it's talking about this prana being in the the air in the atmosphere. And yogis, they can go by breathing and doing certain exercise and absorbing this prana and aligning their prana just with the energy around them. We hear about Dhruva Maharaj. He renounced the world when he was how old? 5. Can you imagine going to leave for the forest when you're 5 years old? Don't even know how to tie your own shoes. So he goes to the forest and he gives up just eating a few berries every couple of weeks. Then he eats just only dry leaves every so often, and then just water. And eventually giving up everything altogether and just taking to breathing, to pranayam. Shikona Ki Chai. So this is a yogic practice by being able to breathe and manipulate your body and mind in a certain way so you can increase your prana. Prana is the source of, the life and energy within the body. When there's no prana, there's no more life. You could see, for example, say you have a fruit, and you cut a fruit. A fruit is very rich with prana. It's alive essentially. And you cut it, and very soon it starts decaying or decomposing. But you take that same fruit or something, say like applesauce, you cook it real down, cook it so much, and there's not so much moisture left in there. Then that same apple that you would cut fresh, and it immediately starts turning brown and becomes rotten and weird. Then that same thing will sit around and last for a much longer time. It's because you're extracting the prana out of it. So, our society, our culture now in this Kali Yuga is filled with things that are devoid of prana. Our modern system of living is devoid of this knowledge. It's completely lost. So the yogis, knowing this, they could be able to just breathe and do these exercises to increase prana, and where they could limit their eating, limit their sleeping, so they could have more time to engage in meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these practices can be helpful, but ultimately the point is to, as Prabhupada mentioned, to come to a higher platform and being able to control when we leave our body, or which destination we'll go to when we leave our body. And Prabhupada makes the point that by taking up the Bhakti Yoga, you can be transferred to the highest possible realm. And this is all happening by the Lord's mercy. You can go to Vaikuntha and beyond, ultimately to what we hear of the desired goal of Goloka Dham, or Krishna Loka, the abode of Lord Krishna, where the same Lord Brahma here, who is describing this material creation in the Brahma Samhita, he describes as every step being a dance, and every word being a song. Now, I always like to bring up this point because, at certain times in our life, things may have happened that made us incredibly happy, and we feel everything's connected, really excited about something, and it's almost natural. You get a little hitch in your step, or you kind of like sing or act things out in that kind of happy mood. This is the spiritual world. There's no anxiety, there's no fear, there's no darkness. It's all bliss and joy. So in that way, every step is a dance and every word is a song, because what's there to lament about? Speaking of the Brahma Samhita, it starts off by saying, Ishvara Padama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Nadir Adir Govinda Savaka Nakadanam. Prabhupada mentioned, he alluded to this here, and he also quoted this very important shloka from the Bhagavad Gita, Ham Sarvasya Prabhu Mata Savam Pravartate Iti Matva Vajante Mam Buddha Bhava Samandita. highlighting the fact that the Lord is the source and creation of all. And He's the master of everything. Everything emanates from Him. So this is nice. The devotee knows this, so you can see this and then it's not bewildered. So you can hear different things. For instance, like you may hear something that's not even directly devotional, but because you know everything's related to Krishna, you can find a way to relate it back to Krishna. You can somehow relate it to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. And in this way, everything you see in the world can remind you of Krishna, and you can develop deeper and deeper realizations of Krishna. You know, I mentioned the chapter shloki of the Bhagavatam, where the Lord instructed Brahma. After he spoke these initial 4 shlokas, then what did he say? He said, now take this knowledge and expand upon it and share it. Yes, but expand upon it. You know, so the Bhagavatam, it's not limited to these pages in this book. We hear the Bhagavatam in the heavenly planets is much, much greater in volume. One time, the devotees asked Prabhupada, you know, there's a famous personality named Joan of Arc. So have anybody heard of her? Okay, yeah. Famous woman who was a warrior in France, I believe, like a kshatriya fighting for religious reasons. And Prabhupada said, yes, you know, it's pastimes of the Lord's devotees, like working hard to glorify the Lord. So I'm just trying to show that in this way, the Bhagavatam isn't limited to these pages. We should take what's presented and meditate on it and reflect on it and see the world through the lens of the Shastra and develop deeper realizations and a broader vision, so we can also share it in more diverse ways or connect to the Lord in a better, easier way. So it's a few thoughts. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Jagannath Prabhu.
So this is in relation to the chapter shloki of the Bhagavatam, where Krishna says that anything connected to him is valuable. So I'm just wondering why this devotional service is so valuable.
Why devotional service is so valuable?
Yeah, like you know, what exactly makes it, why should we drop everything and just perform this devotional service? Why not engage in sense gratification?
Why drop everything and engage in devotional service? Devotional service is reality. Sense gratification is illusion. In the examples given, you know, material life, it's like a dream. When you dream at night and you wake up, does it sometimes affect you in a certain way? Yes, so it's a dream. You know, it didn't really physically happen as we know it here in waking life, but it was real. So similarly here, it's real, but it's illusion. It's like that dream. So if I am struggling in my dream, should I try to like go in my dream and like conquer all the problems, or it's much easier just to wake up from the dream? Then you're awake and you realize, oh, I was dreaming. Okay, let me shake it off and get back to like real life. And then you go about your day, and then, you know, you don't even worry about it so much. So similarly, here is like a dream. So we could go and try to figure out and fix all of our problems, or we could just wake up from the dream. I mean, taking the sense gratification, it's like once you come to devotional service and you have knowledge of why sense gratification is bad, because it entangles you in the material world, it pollutes your consciousness, it leads to lower states, then it's easy to see why you want to give it up and, strive for something better. But to those who don't know, I mean, they're just continuing with an illusion, a lie. Because deep down, people know that it won't bring them happiness. People know money won't bring them happiness, but still they have this like faint hope, and they hold on to it because that's all that they know. I mean, this is a few different aspects, but ultimately our position is to serve Krishna, and by serving Krishna, we derive pleasure. So like that shloka that I mentioned that you just brought up, when we're serving Krishna, then we're directly related to Krishna, then we're situated in reality. And when we're not serving Krishna, then we're just serving his illusory energy, which is Maya. And the thing is, when we're taking a devotional service, it's not like Maya is clinging onto us and holding onto us. We're holding on to Maya. We hold on to Maya. So Krishna is trying to say, okay, give up everything and just come to me. I'll protect you. Have no fears. But we can't give up our attachment to Maya, to our false ego, to our conception of how we should be. Okay, I hear devotional service will bring me full bliss and satisfaction, but still I think I need this kind of behavior, this kind of activity, this kind of security in my life, this backup plan, to the idea that we have, to the degree that we have these backup plans, these ulterior motives, these reservations, is the same degree that, Krishna shields himself from our view. Also in the Brahma Samhita, Rama says, Preman janacharita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintaguna sarupam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. One whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love, one who he can see the Lord. So when we develop love for Lord Krishna and give everything to him, and Krishna reveals himself more and more, then you see, okay, this brings me happiness, this brings fulfillment, purpose, and sense gratification. It goes nowhere. We were hearing in the Bhagavad Gita last night, it's just lust, insatiable lust. It's never fulfilled. It's never satisfied. But, even as a devotee, we may still have material desires. And it's not like, you're evil, I can't associate with you. No, we have to work with where we're at and dovetail it into Krishna consciousness. And some people, realistically, people come to be a brahmachari. Most people don't stay brahmachari their whole life because they have certain material desires. So then they become honest with that and realistic, and then they find a way to deal with it in a Krishna conscious way, a regulated way, so they can make advancement towards Krishna in a proper way. But if we just, okay, pure devotional service, this is it, and we kind of ignore all these desires, they don't really go anywhere. We have to be honest and deal with everything in the right way, or else, we keep pushing them to the side. They keep pushing them to the side, and they come back stronger and stronger. It's like the weeds surrounding this bhakti in the heart, this bhakti like the beach, the creeper. We keep cutting down the weeds, but the roots are there. And I used to do a lot of gardening. And if you don't pull the weeds out by the roots, you cut them down, the roots get stronger and bigger. So then they come back stronger and stronger. So then it gets to a point where it's even hard to pull them out. You have to dig them out. It's hard. So, we have to be honest, be real. and always apply our intelligence that's coming through the scripture to see the futility of material sense pleasure. I mean, it's not fulfilling. I mean, you could look in the world and see people aren't fulfilled, they're not happy. People, they're so wealthy, so rich, they're not fulfilled, they're not happy. People who aren't so rich, they're not fulfilled, they're not happy, and they're desiring to be these people who are rich because they think, oh, if I'm in that position, I'll be happy, I'll be good, I'll do it right. But then once we get to that position also, we see, okay, I'm not happy. Well, we could see Srila Prabhupada, he's free from the modes of material nature, he's free from desire of wealth for his own selfish interest, he's free from lust. He's just a well-wisher for everybody, and he gave everything for that purpose. So let's continue to take advantage of this opportunity Srila Prabhupada gave. I hope that answers your question. It's kind of long. Okay. Any last little comment, correction? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gaur Nathai ki jai, Vanshakapatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhi Vichapatitanam Pavani Vaishnavi Namo Namah.